Promises to install more seismometers at Glacier Peak have fallen through.
The active volcano in Snohomish County, and as the threat of eruption at Glacier Peak is very high right now.
There's a stretch of Washington where the Cascade Range stands like a wall, ridges shrouded in conifers, high meadows stitched together by mist, and snowy summits rising above pale clouds. The land hums with a deceptive calm. Ancient forests drink from crystalline streams. The expansive wilderness appears immutable, ancient and still. Yet, under this quiet surface, the earth writes stories in movements too slow for a human eye to catch, too profound for most to feel. Every so often, though, the land's restlessness breaks through in ways that cannot be ignored. In the spring of 2025, something beneath Glacier Peak, an often overlooked volcano crowned by encroaching glaciers, shifted, and the world above began to notice. Researchers began to monitor a notable phenomenon. The land near the volcano showed signs of rising. Uncharted millimeters became measured centimeters. This specific upward motion, gentle but unmistakable, sent ripples of concern through a community usually buffered from geology's dramas. Volcanoes in Alaska simmered, California's restless faults creaked, and the ground near Iceland's Grindavik split open in fire and ash. But here, tucked within the northernmost reaches of the Cascades, Glacier Peak's slumber seemed disturbed by a new kind of restlessness, an uplift on a timescale that geologists rarely see in this region. What exactly is causing this subtle ascent? Is it a benign shift in glacial weight, a byproduct of melting snow and ice, or something far more consequential, a warning sign from the magma below? As spring waned and summer crested, monitoring instruments continued to record the ground's persistent and accelerating climb. Updates and scientific inquiries multiplied. The specter of eruption, a faint concern for generations, has suddenly found a more immediate voice. Scientists watch, measure, and analyze, and the question arises: what kind of disturbance stirs within this remote, icy massif? Are we witnessing a prelude to a forgotten type of disaster?
From tribes here in our area dating back to 200 years ago, describing explosive eruptions coming from Glacier Peak.
Signs in the stone, the anatomy of rapid uplift. Where Glacier Peak stands, the land records its own history. Volcanic rock thickens the mountain's shoulders. Rivers, shaped by streams of molten earth and the retreat of ice, have etched the terrain for centuries. For generations, the volcano's elevation and blanket of snow have made it an object of quiet fascination. Remote, rarely compared with prominent Pacific giants like Mount Rainier or the notorious Mount St. Helens. Yet, beneath this veneer, the tools of modern science are revealing unusual movements. By early 2025, a network of GPS sensors, strain meters, and seismographs planted over years of fieldwork began to deliver a series of noteworthy readings. The ground on Glacier Peak's southeastern flank, once stable, was observed to be moving upward at a measurable pace. These aren't movements anyone can feel beneath their boots. We're not speaking of ground splitting, trees toppling, or boulders tumbling from newly opened rifts. Instead, the data show a more subtle force, the persistent pushing of the Earth itself. The numbers accumulate, fractions of an inch, then centimeters, until what began as technical signal emerges as scientific concern. This is uplift of a kind not seen in living memory around Glacier Peak. The causes of such uplift are typically found deep below. Rising magma can press on the overlying crust, bulging the surface. Sometimes, groundwater, heated and forced upward by volcanic activity, exerts pressure. The gradual loss of glacier weight due to melting can change the load above and below the surface, but rarely triggers rapid uplift over such a short span. It's this relative suddenness, this emergence from geological quiet, to unmistakable motion that draws the serious attention of scientists. The warning signs are noted by those who know this terrain. At the end of 2024, formal warnings by observatories and researchers indicated the volcano could erupt sometime in 2025. In decades past, the notion that Glacier Peak could erupt soon was fringe speculation, but as the ground rises and fresh days bring new movement, the range of scientific theories widens. What is the volcano preparing? Is this the accumulation of energy stored for centuries, or a momentary tug of war in the ongoing tension between fire and ice? Could this be the beginning of a larger change, one with the power to alter the entire region? Echoes from the north, when glaciers move faster. To understand Glacier Peak's behavior, scientists examine phenomena observed at other volcano-glacier intersections. Recent research reveals a significant trend. Glaciers within 3 miles of a volcano move nearly 50% faster than those surrounding dormant peaks. The implication is striking. Glaciers accelerate when heated by rising magma, or when volcanic tremors subtly disturb the mountainside. On the surface, Glacier Peak's glacial rivers carry more meltwater, even as winter snows replenish the upper basins. Data now flowing from field stations track the movement of ice down the mountain. It isn't merely solar warmth. Satellites and sensors detect nuanced changes in the glacier's pace. In recent years, such changes have often been linked to renewed volcanic activity nearby. With both rapid uplift and faster glacier movements present, geologists are less inclined to call it coincidence. Rather, they see a clear system response to renewed subsurface forces. Similar patterns are observed across the world's volcanic arcs. In Alaska, sheets of glacier ice have accelerated above awakening volcanoes. In Iceland, glacial floods and ash clouds sometimes follow subtle signals, marrying fire and ice in dramatic events. Mount Rainier, near Glacier Peak, is infamous for catastrophic debris flows, lahars, unleashed by melting snow and ice during volcanic unrest, reminders of the relationship between glacier movement and the hazard it represents. Are speeding glaciers a clear precursor of volcanic unrest? Can acceleration at the surface serve as a warning light for deeper changes? Or do they, too, sometimes shift for reasons invisible to current science? As volcanoes remind us across the Pacific Ring of Fire, the interplay of magma and glacier is complex. Sometimes it brings only increased meltwater and subtle flows. Sometimes it signals, or even triggers, the next disaster. The watchers on the mountain, science on the front line. With Glacier Peak's mysteries deepening, the ongoing vigilance falls to observatories and agencies. The U.S. Geological Survey, joined by observatories from California to Alaska, focuses its attention on the trembling ground and melting snowpack. Newly deployed sensors, recalibrated instruments, and constant monitoring turn raw data into the earliest possible warning. Volcanology is a discipline demanding patience and respect for nature's ambiguity. Despite advances in imaging and remote sensing, Earth's true intentions remain hard to decipher. Is the rapid uplift a passing phase, soon to settle, or the start of escalated activity that could lead to an eruption? There is no definitive answer. Some experts point to other volcanoes gaining attention. A mysterious undersea volcano off California's coast, now speculated to threaten an eruption later in 2025. Axial Seamount, a deep-sea mountain whose frequent eruptions are closely forecasted and studied. In Iceland, Sundhnúkur's 2023 to 2025 eruptions illustrate how calm can turn to chaos seemingly overnight. Meanwhile, time passes. Facing logistical constraints, the USGS announced that certain fieldwork will not resume until at least 2026. This decision, made amid signs of new volcanic behavior at several sites, raises concerns. What key information could be missed? How might signals slip by, unseen and uncontextualized, as projects are delayed or resources are stretched? In every question, there is an underlying challenge. Are our monitoring systems enough? Could the next eruption, if it comes, be foreshadowed only by clues, centimeters of uplift, incrementally shifting ice that we risk ignoring? Memory and myth, the sleep of giants. Glacier Peak does not dominate the news cycle. Its name is overshadowed by Yellowstone's caldera or the dramatic past of Mount St. Helens. Still, the dangers of underestimating it are real. Often, America's volcanic vigilance centers on predictable hotspots, the steaming landscapes of Yellowstone, the summit of Rainier, the explosive St. Helens. Yet geology rarely repeats its lessons in familiar ways. Glacier Peak's own story is written in hidden layers of ash and centuries-old pumice. Its last historically significant eruptions occurred more than 3 centuries ago, long enough for risk to fade from immediate concern. This quiet, according to scientists, may be misleading. Around the planet, recent eruptions emerged after centuries of calm. Iceland's 2023 to 2025 Sundhnúkur activity, erupting near Grindavik, forced evacuations and international attention. California's undersea volcanoes now merit increased vigilance. The pattern is clear. Volcanoes can sleep for hundreds of years, only to awaken suddenly. Communities lulled by the slow tick of geologic time may dismiss the minor signals. A centimeter here, an uptick in glacier speed there. But beneath the snowfields and forests, the record is clear. Silence is not safety. Is Glacier Peak's current uplift the earliest sign of renewed activity or a temporary fluctuation? If it truly stirs, will communities have the necessary memory and preparedness to act? Comparisons across the ring, context, and consequences. Volcanoes are never isolated. They are part of a global system of shifting plates and volcanic arcs. The patterns visible at Glacier Peak echo far beyond Washington state, linking distant volcanoes and deep-sea mountains in a shared story of shifting rock and water. In California, the USGS tracks both active faults and newly recognized volcanic structures. Alaska's landscape is alive with both known volcanoes and enigmatic glacier-clad peaks whose histories are revealed only gradually. On the other side of the world, the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland demonstrates the reality that remote or quiet volcanoes can seize headlines at any time. These lessons are both familiar and sobering. Volcanic unrest rarely aligns with human timetables. The Sundhnúkur eruptions, lively between 2023 and 2025, forced swift evacuations and seismic responses. In contrast, Glacier Peak's awakening is still characterized by monitoring, analysis, and caution. Yet the parallels matter. For instance, axial seamounts eruptions, the only deep-sea volcano with forecasts for future eruptions, could provide crucial insight for monitoring similar systems. If California's enigmatic undersea volcanoes provide signs before they erupt, can similar approaches protect communities near land-based peaks like Glacier Peak? The connections remind us that it isn't enough to keep watch only on the famous or the recently active. Every volcano, however tranquil it may seem, exists within a network of related hazards and lessons. The fragile balance, melting, movement, and peril. The dynamic between volcanoes, glaciers, and the rivers that connect them is inescapable. The phenomena observed at Glacier Peak are not isolated. They are part of a broader cycle of transformation and risk. Melting glaciers, influenced by both natural warmth and new pulses of energy from below, drive water into valleys earlier and with greater intensity than usual. Riverbanks soften, infrastructure comes under new pressure, and communities downstream may face changing risks as water flow patterns shift. Research makes it clear, even moderate volcanic activity, when paired with accelerated glacier melt, can strain water supplies, affect fisheries, and threaten key infrastructure. Mount Rainier's history is an object lesson. Experts warn that a sudden debris flow triggered by volcanic heat melting snow and ice could endanger entire downstream towns without much warning. Glacier Peak's recent activity raises similar questions. Could episode of rapid uplift and increased heat trigger glacial melting sufficient to launch a hazardous lahar in the valleys below? In this context, preparedness is not only a geological question, but a societal one. Communities must consider water monitoring, bridge safety, and emergency communications. The invisible but vital links between glacial pace and volcanic movement are risk factors that cannot be ignored. As Glacier Peak's glaciers accelerate and its ground continues to rise, agencies face uncertainty as well as urgency. Should they prioritize water quality and downstream flooding? Should infrastructure be fortified or emergency communication systems updated? With imperfect foresight, decision-makers must weigh these questions, not just for Glacier Peak, but for all communities living in the shadow of volcanoes. Reading the rumblings, technology, delay, and doubt. Modern volcano monitoring delivers mountains of real-time data, ground movement by GPS, small temperature fluctuations, and microquakes tracked deep underground. But these technical marvels cannot eliminate all uncertainties. Each day, fieldwork is deferred, new questions arise. Will key signals be missed? Or is the current sensor array sufficient to spot real change in time for response? Across the broader volcanic landscape, every eruption watched, such as those at axial seamount, provides more data and possibly new insight for forecasting. Yet volcanoes are famously idiosyncratic, and lessons in one place may only transfer in part to another. One thing remains constant: Earth's pace is its own. Not every episode of Uplift precedes a disaster. Not every tremor is an omen. Still, in 2025, each day that passes with unanswered questions is a reminder of this planet's ever-present unpredictability. The human question: safety, memory, and readiness. For generations, Glacier Peak's remote location insulated nearby communities from daily worry. Towns like Arlington, Darrington, and others along the Stillaguamish have mostly lived with the mountain as a distant landmark, not a looming threat. Its eruptions, ancient by human measure, made for history lessons, not current events. But as glaciers move faster and the ground lifts, the conversation is changing. Local news now reports on updates from volcano observatories. Emergency planning incorporates not just earthquakes, but also volcanic hazards. Water supply managers eye the mountain for potential threats, as do those responsible for infrastructure and safety. These are not merely hypothetical concerns. In disaster preparedness, the value of minutes, hours, or days of warning can be measured in lives and resources. Slow changes, like uplift or subtle shifts in glacier movement, are often difficult to interpret and may invite complacency if not taken seriously. The challenge for scientists and officials alike is to transform ambiguous data into useful, actionable plans. Updating evacuation routes, reinforcing infrastructure, and educating the public about volcanic signals are all part of the response. Ultimately, the lesson is that readiness is a continual process. In regions shaped by volcanoes and rapid natural change, vigilance is as crucial as memory. Earth's slow clock, the meaning of motion. Modern life is fast, but the signals from Glacier Peak unfold at their own pace. Slow, persistent, and potentially profound. What feels rapid on the timescale of decades is leisurely in geologic terms. Centuries may pass between eruptions. Glaciers sculpt and melt over thousands of years. Yet when the moment comes, change can erupt unexpectedly, a swift punctuation in an age-old story. For those tracking every signal, humility is essential. No matter how advanced instrumentation becomes, the Earth continually defies complete understanding. A mountain that has lain quiet for lifetimes may, with little warning, awaken into chaos or simply shift in subtle, consequential ways. Glacier Peak's current unrest is not just a collection of warnings or fresh data. It's a reminder that the world's great slow-motion disasters are written in stone, ice, and water, in processes that take patience and careful listening to understand. And for all our progress, the secrets of these systems still demand respect and constant attention. The unfinished moment. For years, Glacier Peak watched over its forests in silence, its summit a quiet signature on the horizon. In 2025, it speaks differently through measurable uplift, hastened glaciers, and a flurry of scientific investigation. The questions raised by this new behavior are urgent and enduring. How much do these signals mean, and what story do they tell? Around the world, dramatic eruptions and near misses often dominate the headlines, drawing focus to places like Iceland's Sundhnúkur or the mysterious volcanoes off California's coast. But beneath these spectacular dramas, Glacier Peak's persistent motion teaches another lesson. Every subtle motion matters, a potential warning in the incremental shifts beneath our feet. Stay curious, stay attentive. Glacier Peak's evolving story is not just about a single mountain, but about how we choose to read the signs of a restless planet. If you want to follow every signal beneath America's volcanoes, like this video and subscribe to keep up with every warning and every chapter in the story of our landscape. Share your thoughts in the comments. Does Glacier Peak's latest behavior change your perception of volcanic risk, or do you see it as a natural mystery still beyond our full understanding? Thank you for watching. Remember, the mountains are listening, the glaciers are moving, and beneath even the quietest sky, the earth is never still.